This is Haven Space, a safe place for fantasies, brought to you by sex coach and researcher Sara Perry.
Hi folks, this is Sara Perry and welcome back to my channel. Thanks for tuning in. I really want to discuss some important issues that have been coming up in conversations that I've been having lately. If you haven't been checking out my podcast, and if you haven't been checking out my blog, then you've totally missed it. One quick definition I wanted to give you today, and the reason we're here, so that we can talk about why binaries are actually a problem. The society we live in has made it really simple to kind of categorize things into two different opposing spectrums. And everything has been defined in that way. Everything is either good or bad, or black or white, or Republican versus Democrat, right? And that's everything that we're exposed to every day. We have to be kind of taking a side of things. But the reality is that we don't just kind of live on a scale. Binaries are especially problematic when it comes to things like gender, because we don't see male and female genders as completely opposite and opposing bodies. In fact, many people who are intersex don't just fall in the middle of the spectrum. There are a lot of people that have entirely male bodies and entirely female bodies, and those things don't fit in the spectrum. The spectrum itself, the design itself, doesn't fit, and that's why we're discussing. Two things that binaries absolutely have to have is two polar opposites, and then the two polar opposites can't diverge. They actually have to kind of progressively let go of one so that the other one takes over. This is to say that the more you are male, for example, the less you are female. In the design of the binary, as a woman becomes more and more masculine, if that's how you want to say it, and then move towards masculinity, they're actually relinquishing some of the very feminine characteristics that would then qualify her as a woman. But we know scientifically that this is not the case. We know in gender and sexuality studies this is not the case, and we know medically this is not the case. But gender and sexuality are not the only cases when this is problematic. This is actually really problematic when you're trying to do sex coaching and you try to explain to people that they can possibly love their partner, loving other people and getting to enjoy their time with other people, and potentially still feel feelings of fear of loss, also known as jealousy, right? In the polyamorous community, we talk about a word called compersion. Compersion was coined in the 70s by this commune called the Karishta commune, and they kind of lived together in this hippy-dippy life, and everyone was polyamorous and fucked everybody, and it was fantastic, and they wrote books, and actually all of the books start with the sex, because everyone asks us about the sex, which is not how polyamory works, but people seem the most curious about those conversations. But the curious thing about compersion is that it's been defined as the opposite of jealousy. It's been defined as the other side of the spectrum. Like jealousy exists over here, and then compersion exists over here, and that in the middle of the way, you kind of lose jealousy as you go towards compersion. But this is not the case. If you go to any polyamorous support groups or speak to polyamorous people, you don't actually let go of one emotion to take over an emotion. And the emotions don't actually exist in opposites. Compersion is not the feeling that you feel joy or that you feel safety when your partner is far from you. I'm just saying safety because jealousy is defined as a fear of loss. Jealousy is not any other emotion. It's not insecurity. Jealousy is not feeling bad about yourself. All those things are different emotions, and they can be related to jealousy. But jealousy itself is defined as the fear that someone's going to take something that you have. And when we're talking about compersion, you're not just feeling safer because someone's around, like there's now a guard policing what you have and taking care of it. That is not the definition of compersion. Compersion is feeling joy that your partner is experiencing joy with someone else. As you can understand, these emotions are not contradicting emotions, and in fact can easily coexist. A lot of what people that are new to the polyamorous community will say, or people who are trying to navigate and redefine their relationship dynamics. Let's not use polyamory because some people aren't diving in with 2 feet. Would you dive in with 2 feet? I think you'd like dive in head first. So let's go with that one. As a foreigner, I'm going to say some people just don't dive in head first to polyamory, but they will definitely try to redefine what their relationships look like, and they will try to find what dynamics are better and situations work for them. And in those instances, they tend to shy away because they say this and say, I'm still having jealousy, I'm still feeling jealousy. And it seems that people who are polyamorous have achieved this different level of relationship to self and other that seems like too advanced for where I am right now. But the reality is that nobody is so much further advanced. Just people have done a little bit more work breaking down what these emotions mean and how to have their needs met around those emotions, instead of finding ways to eradicate those emotions from your life. When we realize that our sanity and our calm and our centered self can coexist with our chaos and mania and with our need for control, for example, you start to change your perception about why we have been told all of these things that are essentially inspiration porn that is keeping you tied to some like idea outside of yourself about what has to happen for you to take the next step into a life that you want. And this is not that. This is not inspiration porn. In fact, what I'm telling you is that you don't have to wait for something big. You don't have to keep following someone. You don't have to subscribe to my Facebook channel. You don't have to listen to the same motivational podcast. You don't have to watch disabled people as a reason that you now have to run marathons and triathlons. You actually can just exist as you are and find joy and comfort in knowing that all of these parts of yourself can easily exist without you having to define what side you're on. So with that, hopefully you've understood a little bit more about how the binaries of jealousy and compersion don't really work to describe jealousy and compersion, why binaries certainly shouldn't be used to describe sexuality, and maybe we can work a little bit further and try to refrain from using binaries in general in our society and start thinking of ourselves as independent thinkers and as people who actually have the freedom to define exactly what we want. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.